Greetings and salutations. Thank you for joining us today. We are group number 4, and this video presentation is an analysis of the current problem that is affecting Beyond Meat and its ability to establish themselves as a legitimate meat alternative within the American market. With that said, let us begin. With the vision of having meat consumption decrease by making a switch over to a plant-based meat alternative, Beyond Meat is at the forefront of ushering in a revolutionary new view to what food cultivation could be. Through a combination of engineering and ingenuity, this process of creating Beyond Meat has been able to replicate the looks, the texture, and the taste of the standard meat protein competitor. Though an ambitious goal, there is a large hurdle in the face that will slow down the uptake of this product, and that must be addressed. This fundamental problem we have found is that the American meat market is a foundational juggernaut in the diets of the vast majority of Americans, and with that it has shaped and created a certain perception up to what meat really is. Simply saying that Beyond Meat is a plant-based meat alternative that is engineered to look, taste, and feel like its standard animal-based counterpart can create an eerie feeling within the minds of the potential consumer. Changing the perceptions is a difficult task in and of itself, and addressing this issue will help lead to sustained success for Beyond Meat. Because the market has not been exposed to this new idea of what meat can be, this growth of this new product is less than ideal. The basic problem has generated several distinct areas that must be considered when the goal of increasing growth is concerned. This basic problem has generated several distinct areas that must be considered when the goal of increasing growth is concerned. Currently, Beyond Meat's exposure is limited to a certain amount of grocery stores that carry our product. Because of this, Beyond Meat's main method of exposure has been directed to a specific market demographic, the traditional stay-at-home caregiver. This leads us to our next point. The marketed segments are too few in number to generate sustained success. Expanding our pool of potential consumers can greatly increase the uptake of this product. The process of developing and manufacturing Beyond Meat is extremely specific, as the ratios and correct specific compounds and ingredients are needed to create this product. This has resulted in higher costs for the consumer when compared to its traditional meat counterparts. Finally, focusing on the American market may take too long to realize significant profits, and as such, possibility of expanding to the global market would help generate larger awareness and success, as the other markets are not as entrenched in animal meat protein. Having covered the context and the problems that are currently affecting Beyond Meat, we will now begin our discussion into the qualitative and quantitative analysis.
So, as you're now aware of the company itself and the problems it might face, I want to highlight the strengths and weaknesses it can bring with it by doing a SWOT analysis. Beyond Meat is the leader in the artificial meat market. The population is becoming more aware of the need of healthy alternatives, which is exactly what Beyond Meat offers. A health-conscious product. Meat prices are constantly rising, and the percentage of vegetarians is also constantly rising, which opens up new opportunities in this market sector. Not only is it a different nutrition people have to get used to, but also does it save up to 1.5 million chickens a year, and it will gain the favor of humanitarians. Whereas the food of their competitors, such as corn, is rather described as highly processed food, the food of Beyond Meat contains all natural products, such as non-GMO, soy and pea proteins. Looking at the other internal part of the analysis, we have weaknesses which arise with the product of Beyond Meat. The substitute for chicken is made of soy, which can be restricting in the way that some customers might be allergic to such products, unlike regular meat, which they can usually eat. We can also highlight the missed out market potential, where Beyond Meat has a lack of presence in the global market, such as India and China. When thinking about the threats the company might face, the first thing which comes into mind would be the competitors. Although Beyond Meat is innovative, there is a growth in competition within the artificial meat sector. Opportunities can be that Beyond Meat has a huge potential for an increase in profitability, as the production is cheaper than with animal meat production. So let's do a break there and swap to the next slide. Beyond Meat is leading the new generation of food producers. There is still huge potential to extend that market, as the already high demand for vegetarian options is increasing daily compared to the market, which is still relatively small. We can highlight the importance of vegetarian meat, which is much easier and requires less energy to produce, as well as it is more healthy and environmentally conscious. And ultimately, it is the driving force behind using plant protein for food sources. Another example I want to highlight on a missed out opportunity is the advertisement idea they had, where they had baseball players from the New York Mets do taste tests with their product during halftime. They used them to convince meat-loving Americans to change to vegetarian meat. Even though they communicated that the product itself was helping the players to perform, they could have brought the message across more clear by using rather obvious sportsmen, such as bodybuilders or college football players, where they could have brought the message across to even non-sporty people, as everyone knows that these kind of sports people have to take in loads of protein. Beyond Meat's target group is the young generation, which is why we think that college players would be a good way of bringing the message across.
We have formulated 4 distinct alternatives, and let's now start with the first alternative. Our first alternative is to move towards a more go-to-market strategy, which focuses on an aggressive restaurant-centric business model. By moving towards a more restaurant-centric business model, we will have to first restructure the current double distribution strategy used by Beyond Meat. Beyond Meat's current double distribution strategy means that Beyond Meat is not only distributing its products through its retail grocery stores, but also in the restaurant market. By aggressively marketing the product in the restaurant market, Beyond Meat will be able to give customers a chance to try the product before they buy it, which might bring in more, which will ensure to a more efficient market penetration. And also, it increases the customer visibility. More people are likely to see and know the product when they see it on restaurant menus, which is also an indirect and very low-cost form of advertisement. Our second alternative is marketing products aggressively to meat producers and the environmentally conscious. Currently, most meat alternative companies aggressively market their products to vegans and traditional vegetarians. However, most conservative vegans and vegetarians have a negative opinion about meat alternatives, as it is morally ambiguous and hypocritical according to their beliefs, as they don't believe in animal cruelty. So they're more likely to not like the taste of a realistic meat alternative. Therefore, marketing the product to meat producers who still like the taste of meat but are trying to reduce their consumption for health or environmental reasons is a very efficient way to increase our sales and target the population more effectively. The third alternative that I'd like to talk about is improving the manufacturing and supply chain process of Beyond Meat to achieve price parity with traditional meat products. The most important challenge and obstacle faced by meat alternative companies is trying to achieve price parity with traditional meat. Traditional meat has a comparatively simple process and has many suppliers. However, meat alternative companies like Beyond Meat are facing a problem that is that they have very specialized ingredients, limited suppliers, and a very technologically advanced process. Because of their technologically advanced process and its limited suppliers, Beyond Meat's manufacturing process is usually more time intensive and as well as a more complicated process. Currently, they have a limited supply chain, which means that their products are more expensive than traditional meat. To achieve price parity, they would first have to find more suppliers to import the pea and soy proteins and amino acids that's required in their manufacturing process, as well as increase their manufacturing facilities to achieve price parity. The fourth alternative I'd like to talk about is moving into a global market like India or China. India and China are very high population countries with more vegetarian population than in North America. India has a nearly to 40% vegetarian population, where nearly 20% are not conservative vegetarians, which is almost 200 million people that can be targeted for Beyond Meat sales. So moving into a global market will not only allow Beyond Meat to achieve comparatively easier sales because of its friendly consumer behavior in those countries, but also increase their global signature and their brand equity as a global meat alternative company.
Our three decision criteria were targeted to solve some of the problems that were mentioned before. Our first decision criteria is the amount of time needed for the action plan to create a positive impact. This is quite important because if Beyond Meat doesn't solve their problems that were mentioned before in time, competitors will take advantage of Beyond Meat's problems and make it their competitive advantage over them. The next decision criteria is the cost of implementation. Some of the alternatives may not be worth it for the cost needed to execute the decision. Our last decision criteria is the degree of market penetration. Two of the problems Beyond Meat is facing are related to the lack of recognition of the brand by its consumers. Next, in the decision matrix, for the time and market penetration, we used a scale of 1 to 5, where 5 meant alternative will be executed and goal will be achieved very quickly. For the cost, using the same scale of 1 to 5, a score of 5 meant it is not very costly to implement the alternative. The first alternative has a score of 11 because once a couple of restaurants begin to offer Beyond Meat, it will improve its market penetration and more restaurants would want to offer a vegan option in their menu. The second alternative of marketing products more aggressively has a score of 10. This option has a great market penetration and will gain a lot more customers, and it will be more costly and time consuming. The third alternative of improving the manufacturing has a score of 6 because it is very costly and does not solve the problems of lack of consumers. The last alternative of moving into global markets has a score of 8 because although it improves customer recognition as it is introduced into a new country, the process will take a lot of time and very costly. The decision matrix shows that the first alternative is the best option as it has a balanced positive solution to the problems for Beyond Meat. Moving Beyond Meat into the restaurant-centric business models allow the brand to be introduced into a new market in the same industry. Beyond Meat will be able to get brand recognition from restaurants, which will bring in more consumers. Consumers who want to order from the vegan option menu at a restaurant will be able to eat vegan meat, which looks and tastes like real meat. This allows many consumers to get a sample of Beyond Meat's products. Beyond Meat's offering of their products in the restaurants and retail stores will allow consumers to make vegan meat at home without having to go to a restaurant all the time. Once Beyond Meat creates its brand name for good quality vegan meat that looks and tastes just like real meat, it will be able to generate more sales through retail. Also, when Beyond Meat partners up with big name fast food restaurants like McDonald's, it can improve its market penetration. Beyond Meat will be able to get a great brand recognition from fast food restaurants and be able to generate more revenue. This shift from a retail culture into introduction of restaurant-centric business model will benefit Beyond Meat's brand recognition and be a less costly alternative.
For this implementation, we have 4 steps that we go through, which is the research and comparing compatible restaurant chains, pitching Beyond Meat's offerings to the clients, choosing and negotiating terms with clients, and creating a customized, tailored menu. So what are we going to do in each of these steps? For the first step, we're going to be finding compatible businesses with high customer value, visibility, and identify potential pitfalls. For the second step, we're going to be approaching compatible brands, fast food, fine dining, or healthy eateries with a business proposal. For step 3, we're going to be negotiating and spread of the Beyond Meat within their menu at the restaurant, as well as the financial terms and exclusivity of it. Step 4, we're going to be creating an elusive and tailored Beyond Meat menu for each restaurant client. So who's going to do all these jobs for each of the steps? For the step 1, we're going to be using internal and external marketing consultants to give advice and research within the research of the market and what are the types of restaurants that will likely match what we are looking for. For pitching, we're going to normally go for a communications and negotiation team. For choosing negotiation terms with clients, we are going to be discussing with many of them management team, with our negotiation team, and creating customized and tailored menus. We are going to be working with their chefs, with their chefs to create a good menu for the product. Where is this going to be done? For the researching, we're going to get this done in Los Angeles, California, where the Beyond Meat is being currently stationed. For the rest of the steps, we're also planning to do it within this set area because it makes it a lot easier for Beyond Meat to understand the current. We'll have a better understanding of the current area and how the people work in this area. For when each of these steps need to be completed. For step 1, hopefully be completed within in a 2-week deadline. The reason being why it's only 2 weeks is because too long will be too excessive, but 2 weeks allows the business to have a clear understanding what the kind of restaurant chains are within the area. For pitching, it would take around, we have an estimation of over a span of 3 to 6 months, because a lot of these restaurants will require a lot of time to make the decisions to see if Beyond Meat is a business that is worth taking the risk on. When step 3, we have over 3 to 4 months. It's a little bit shorter than pitching because pitching we first need to go through all of the regular procedures, but the negotiating, it will also take a relatively longer time. For step 4, it would also take around 3 months because making a new menu is not an easy task, particularly when you have a new product such as Beyond Meat, types of vegetarian meat options. Since most of these restaurants, they probably experience it once or twice, but if they want to fully integrate it into their menu, they need to make sure it goes with the taste within the restaurant so it doesn't cause any conflicts. For why are we doing each of these steps? For the first step is so that we make sure that we know where we're going and how we're going to negotiate with the market or with the restaurants. For why we pitching, and rather than them having to come to us, we're trying to push this product forward. We can't really go back. And why and when we're choosing the negotiation terms with clients, with individual clients, why are we doing that? Because every individual client requires a different specification on different rules they have to follow. So we, such as if it's a franchise or like a huge company or just a very startup. Some have wish to keep their image while others are willing to change it a bit more. And why we deciding to creating a custom tailored menu is because we want people to know what our product is capable, what your product is capable of. Now, how are we going to sort out this problem with if there's any situation, any problem during the process? So we made a contingency plan. With this contingency plan, we have 2 different directions we can move on. The issue that we have predicted that might occur is that we might have struggling with our pitching and negotiation processes with the presentation plan, which is always a very real possibility. And we believe that this is one that we need to focus on. And normally when these negotiations happen is normally when they become out of the image that we were trying to create with our product, or they don't reach the correct visibility with the ones that are available. So we have two options that we're going to go for. For startups, we got more focus on startup restaurants. The reason why we're going for more startups is because it allows us to have more of a controlling element within it. Because if we can supply them with regular shipments of our food, it will give us more leverage when trying to create an image for the product. The next direction we believe we will move towards more is the fast food restaurants instead. Even though for fast food restaurants, most of them are franchises, and more in specific geographic locations, which will have different tastes and stuff, situations like that, which also has their own particular control system, which results in us having very little control, but it gives us a huge visibility due to the large amount of locations that it can reach and a lot amount of people that go to these fast food restaurants, giving our product a try, which is one of the issues that allowing us to penetrate. And in conclusion, going through the restaurants will allow Beyond Meat to penetrate into the meat market a large period of time, while spreading the influence within the product to allow us for expansion.